me with everything creative, right? I lean towards models that can do it all. I'm very selfish like that. The old flow would be like, go to Canva or go to, Gemini and spin up an image and it has a watermark. And then I'm going to bring it to 𝗀𝘀 and it's going to be like, I can't figure out this watermark. And then it's like, how do I fix the watermark? And it's like, well, cool. Now Codex can do pretty much everything 𝗀𝘀 can do, and then image generation inside of it. And I don't have to pay for APIs. I don't got to copy and paste. So now my daily workhorse is 𝗀𝘁 4.5 build. And why? It's because it does the intelligence and the contextual stuff. It does the images pretty much damn near on par. But then it also levels up and it does video. So
welcome to Retail Playbook, provided by 𝗵𝗺𝗴𝗲, hosted by top retail agent researcher Andrew Bell. Retail Playbook is your go-to resource for cutting-edge research, original content, and future-proof strategies to make sure your business is staying ahead of the competition.
Hello, welcome to Retail Playbook, where we discuss the intersection between AI and retailers, with Alexa for shopping, 𝘁𝘁, and others. And today we have a very special guest, one of my friends, John Aspinall. He is literally probably the world's expert on CTR, click-through rate, and he's become one of the most foremost minds, in my opinion, when it comes to AI and imagery, creatives. Really excited to have him on.
World's expert, man, that's a first. I feel a little bit I puff out my chest a little bit now because I feel like man, I haven't even been outside of North America, so I don't even know, but I'll take your word for it, dude. But yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I like these kind of things, especially talking with you about AI. I can nerd out for hours on end.
Oh, you and I, didn't you say last time someone stopped us, right, from having to talk and just cut us out in their internet. So
hey, nerds, get out of here with that, because I could sit here and talk about things forever. And thankfully, we live in a world and a time and a day and age where people are willing to pay for that kind of stuff. So luckily, I'm able to take that kind of thing and monetize it.
John, when did we first meet? How did we first meet? I know we met at Accelerate, but
it was back when I worked at my Amazon guy eons ago. And I think you were a client or just, I don't know what it was exactly, but our paths crossed, and we've always been pals and chit-chatting, and you putting out predictions about this is going to drop on Amazon, and I'm like, and then it happens, and I'm like, dude, tell me the lottery numbers then if you're going to tell me these kind of things. But yeah, no, it's been a wild ride for sure in e-commerce, because things are changing every single day, just like with AI. Everything, like as advanced as AI is, it's almost like, hold on to your seat, because next week everything's going to change, and what model you're working on right now might not be the frontier model you're working on next week or tomorrow even.
Well, yeah, you used to swear by Claude, and then all of a sudden you're just like, you got on a Codex kick too, and rightly so.
Yeah, because like me with everything creative, right? I lean towards models that can do it all. I'm very selfish like that. So I don't want to have to, the old flow would be like, go to Canva or go to, Gemini and spin up an image and it has a watermark. And then I'm going to bring it to 𝗀𝘀 and it's going to be like, I can't figure out this watermark. And then it's like, how do I fix the and do all those sorts of things, because, hodgepodging or piecemealing things together, where Gemini, at a point was frontier model image generation, but then obviously OpenAI, slaps them with the Image 2 model. And it's like, well, cool. Now Codex can do pretty much everything 𝗀𝘀 can do, and then image generation inside of it. And I don't have to pay for APIs. I don't got to copy and paste. So, and like we talked right before you hit record, it's like, well, now my daily workhorse is 𝗀𝘁 4.5 build. And why? It's because it does the intelligence and the contextual stuff. It does the images pretty much damn near on par, but then it also levels up and it does video. So all these things. And then, next week Codex will come out with a new thing, and then I'm back on the Codex train. So,
and I think it's nice because guys like you and me, like, we're ready for that too, because we're so used to being on the next thing that we're like, oh, it's okay, we can go back to this, right? Because like you got to keep up with all of it. Whereas like if you put all your eggs in one basket, like everything in Claude, everything in Codex, everything in 𝗀𝘁, you're limited to those platforms. But I tend to think like, okay, at least have two different platforms that you can go back and forth with when the features become more advanced. Because when the features become more advanced, it's likely the other platform will catch up. Like you said, Claude went ahead of ChatGPT. ChatGPT goes ahead of Claude. But like where Claude kind of falls short is the image generation. You have Claude Design, which is amazing, but it's just not on par with image generation, especially GB2 image that OpenAI came out with. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I tell folks all the time, because I do like AI training and cohorts every month on a different topic. And I always tell, you'd be shocked at the amount of business owners and operators I run into that are paying like for $100 or $200 Claude or Codex plan. And we get into the nitty gritty and I'm like, what is your file and folder foundation? Like I have a little bit over here. I mainly work out of Claude Chat, not even co-work. And it's like, we need one source of truth, one foundation, because when you have that, that's what I have. I have my Life OS is what I call it. And it's all files and folders, right? It's all just files and folders neatly organized. But what I do is I point those files and folders at any AI tool. So I'm very not married to anything. So when I point my files and folders at Codex, it's not missing a beat with how I talk, how I do things, my branding, where my clients are, all those kind of things. But I could just take those files and folders and just redirect and point it at Claude or redirect and point it at Grok. Or sometimes like right now, I have it directed all three spots working simultaneously. So I think the real core competency to come out of that is like, yeah, it's cool you use AI to do all these kind of things, but where is your source of truth? Where is your foundation? Because when you have that, it's like building a home. If you have a solid foundation, then it doesn't matter if you redesign your kitchen or bathroom because you got that foundation.
Yeah, and you don't want to build it on sand either, because then sand goes down. But like it's, I think a guy like you, us, we build things on solid foundations like that. I think that's great. I'm curious, real quick, before we dive into the image generation part of things with AI shopping. Do you work mostly cloud or local? Because I found myself being local. Everything's closed loop like system on my MacBook working. But the problem, of course, is you run out of memory on everything, right? So I have one MacBook that does stuff in the cloud and then one that does stuff just locally. Which ones have you found that are most useful, the local or in the cloud?
Everything is local, but then backed up to the cloud. So my setup is I have a Mac Mini that never turns off. God bless Apple for this.
I thought you got the Neo, MacBook Neo.
I do have the Neo. So the Neo is for travel, right? So, but I have a Mac Mini that just sits here and never turns off because I have a lot of automations that run locally and that kind of stuff. But my whole file and folder, structure and system backs up to GitHub, right? I have automations and loops that every session end when I'm doing something, it backs up to GitHub. So when I'm on my MacBook Neo or if I'm on my phone, I'm accessing it through the GitHub repo. So everything is talking together with that. But I think it's important that I do a lot of image creation and mockups and a lot of image gen. My file and folder structure doesn't keep any output from the images, only the output of which I'll show in a little bit, the strategy, the documentation, all that kind of stuff for reference. But my system parses out so that all of my images that come out of my skills will be backed up onto iCloud Drive because I have a lot more space on iCloud. I really don't care if something happens to it. If it's a deliverable, it's whatever. But I don't want that clogging up and taking up space in my files and folders. So long story, it's local, but backed up to cloud so that I can access it, whatever.
I find it's faster locally and better. I don't know. I just find everything when you can work with it locally, then you back it up, like you said, to the cloud. It's just a much better workflow. But I need to do a better job myself automating things making sure to push things to the cloud to my GitHub.
Yeah, that's what I tell people where it's like the first thing you do when you open up like Terminal and Obsidian or VS Code or whatever, if you're using Terminal, is like, cool, just set up the GitHub CLI, log in, create a GitHub repo, and it's like everything I'm doing here on this folder, back up to the GitHub repo. Cool. When do you want me to do that? Every night? It used to be every night for me, but now it's like every session end. So every time I end a session, there's a hook or in the loop or whatever you want to call it, where it's like, cool, it logs it to my session logs, number one. So all my tools have like persistent memory about what was done, like granular line by line, but then also it'll update to GitHub. So if I just on a whim just got to get up and go and pick up my kids for something like that, and I have to do something in the car, I can go to the Codex app or the 𝗀𝗺 app and access that GitHub.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really cool. So kind of shifting, I mean, not really shifting because this is all a part of your workflows and what you're doing, but AI shopping has become a very big thing, and optimizing like, for Alexa for shopping and all of that. But in general, like with AI shopping, like, there is the aspect of like images and the indexation of images and such, and debate around that of like, oh, is it up to the 7th image that it's indexed? Is it indexed in the A+ content, premium A+ content? Do you have to have native text in A+ content, right? Or do you have to, is it okay to have it just in the image itself? All these different things. And I think you were saying that you had something prepared as far as a skill, right? That basically will go in and help like creative teams, right? With editing their photography, right?
Yeah. So I think a couple things before we kind of get to that, just to kind of touch on what you said. So in terms of like Alexa shopping, we'll talk about Amazon for this instance. One real way that someone can test or kind of push the Alexa shopping system, formerly Rufus or whatever, is if you're have the PDP open, right, and then you ask it something about the product that is not so much written contextually in the copy, but there's a call out that says it on text on the image, and then specifically that to test and see, right? Because I've done that before, and it'll come back with the result. Sometimes it'll just come back with the result. Sometimes it'll come back with the result and the image as proof of where it got it from. But if it comes back with just a result saying, yes, this is, for cats and not just for cats and dog or whatever it is. And if you ask it like, okay, show me where that was confirmed, and then it'll then show you that. So that's kind of like my way of proving that, a lot of people say like, oh, they don't read text on images. Like, no, it does. Right. And here's the proof because you're able to do that. But in terms of like which image in the stack, like how far down, I think is not so much like, in my opinion, a concern, right? Only because I always optimize for the shopper, right? Like, yes, you want to optimize for AI and optimize for AI shopping and all that kind of stuff, but we're not there just yet where people are just saying to their Alexa, hey, find me the best, DSLR camera strap, and go ahead and buy it and send it to me, right? We're not there just yet. We're getting there, right?
It's on its way. Yeah, on its way.
Yeah, it's on its way, but it's not there yet. So that's why I'm very like, gun shy with going all in on it. Like, yes, it needs to be done, but paramount is optimizing for the human shopper, but not just that, is optimizing for the human
shopper.
Mission.
It's the shopping mission. Like, what mission is the customer on, and how exactly do they get to that journey? And that's something that you look at, don't you, with your skills from an AI, imagery perspective, right, in your analysis.
Yeah, and I'll share this kind of what we're taking a look at. I'll even run through a demo. We'll see how fast Codex is in fast mode. But I will say this, I always optimize, because I'm a creative director. I do my own stuff, but I'm also a creative director at an agency for like large clients. And we talk about these on strategy calls all the time. So velocity sellers, we're able to tell them like very clearly, when I get on calls, I optimize for a human shopper that's on a mobile device and is an older consumer. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean you optimize for an older consumer? Our demographic is younger. I was like, let me explain. I act as if it's a 65 or 70-year-old man that's out walking outside. He has an iPhone and he's on Amazon. Can he see and retain all the information that needs to be said and conveyed on the images of your product? If he can see it, and he can,
then everyone else can. That's a great point.
If he can see it, he can understand it, then everyone else can. Then that is a clear thing, because 9 times out of 10, when someone hasn't touched their creative in 6 months, 12 months, and I'm looking at their images in the stack, they're like Stephen King novels on super small text. And I'm like, you might as well put nothing there, right? Because even though AI can read text on images, that's a secondary kind of use case. What about the primary one of the customer actually being able to see? So like here, you can pull up my screen, and I want to show this, right? So this is just the SERP of, I just threw in like flavored protein, right? So first thing I always like to say is when optimizing for click-through rate, right, this category has it pretty good. You'll see some outliers like Ghost and Dymatize, but those are huge monster brands that it doesn't matter. They can literally just have that image and nothing else in the stack. They'll still sell a ton of products, right? So they don't have to optimize. That's why I always tell people, don't always look at like the Apple, the Microsoft, the leading people in your space and copy what they do, because they don't have to. Apple could literally stop advertising, not do anything, and they'll still make a ton of money because it's Apple. So you always have to look at the low-hanging fruit. So like if you see over here, I just pulled up 𝗵𝗻𝗀, right? And they're a bestseller, right? So, and they're no slouch when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I always like to look at it like this, right? So what we're looking at over here is readable for the case of what we're talking about right here and being able to see it. Now, is this down here at the bottom, is this going to be readable for mobile for that 65-year-old guy that's on an iPhone that's out? Maybe not so much, right? But again, this is still a solid image stack. So what I want to show, and it's kind of a good example, but kind of not, because when I take a look at their banana bread one, you can see that it's in line for the colors and the flavor of the banana bread, right? So just when I go to the berries and cream, I'm going to go over here and it's going to be in that colorway for that. So what I like, what I like to do here, let me just stop this screen share and reshare my other screen over here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep Codex over here. So what I want to do is bring in the images for, I'm going to say, well, they pretty much have all of them buttoned up, right? So we're going to pretend, for example, that 𝗵𝗻𝗀 has a new flavor, right? That's not here. And I'm going to show you how the skill that I have assists with that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the images like this. And some folks will say, well, why can't I just connect it automatically and have it download or have, Codex go to the Amazon website and take a look at the images and download them itself? It can do that. Codex is strong enough to be able to open the browser and then go to Amazon and grab the images. But for what I'm doing, like that's a lot of tokens to do busy work, where I could just grab these 4 images right here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call upon the Image Stack Rollout skill, right? So it's a skill that I have that locks in whatever I give it for high fidelity, super accuracy, and then all it's going to do is change out whatever variable. So if I was to say, change this out for all the browns, change it to green, purple, orange, and red, it'll do that, right? But it'll give me exactly what was there. The reason you want to do this is, so I'm going to use 𝗵𝗺𝗴𝗀 because I'm addicted to that kind of thing. So I'm going to say this. So I want you to perform the image stack rollout above for the 4 images that we're locking in as high fidelity and the source of truth. But I want you to do that for 3 different flavors. The new flavors are going to be, let's say, strawberry, chocolate covered strawberry. That's one flavor. Then we're going to do butter pecan. That's another flavor. And then we're going to do, I don't know, let's say, melon, like cantaloupe melon, cantaloupe honeydew melon kind of flavor props. So the reason I did that, right, was because they have their other like traditional flavors that they have already pretty much buttoned up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it on 5-6 sol high fast, and I'm going to run it. Now, the reason why Codex is so powerful for this, and the reason why this skill 9 times out of 10 will not work as optimally when using the API directly, is because of Codex's ability to do checks and balances. So my skill, and I'll click on it for a second, but I'm not going to show a lot of it, but that's my skill, right?
No, that makes sense. You want to give all the secret sauce.
Yeah, so it's pretty comprehensive, but what it's doing is it's also doing a quality control and quality analysis, like QA/QC check. So what happens is, even though Codex's, OpenAI Image 2 model is frontier strong, it's going to hallucinate sometimes, right? But I don't have time to deal with that. So what I did was build out in the skill, check the hallucination, right? And if it doesn't pass QC, so here it's giving me a routing plan of where it's going to go in my hierarchy, in my structure. Yeah. So then I'll just say approved, right?
And this is especially useful, John, right, for someone in a creative department, right, as a tool in order to optimize images specifically for Amazon, because obviously the way you optimize images is also retailer specific. It's not just because like the way it's going to look on your brand site will look a little distinct on Amazon. So how can a creative department, take this skill in order to use it?
Yeah. So this is not going to change. So it's important to note that this skill is not going to change that stack to make it better and more mobile friendly. This skill is we're locking in those 4 images as high fidelity. So those are the images that we're rolling out with. Now, what you're talking about is the step before, is the image stack generation, right? So that example over here would be if I was to take the image, let's say I took the main hero image, and I'll run this one right here. So that's the image stack creation, right? So this isn't rollout. This is the image stack. That's the wrong image. It's an image stack creation. So what this skill will do, this skill will go here, and all I do is call in the skill, give it just the high fidelity image of the hero image. It's going to ask me, because I hit enter too quickly.
It'll know probably, right?
No, I got to give it the URL for Amazon first. So I'm going to stop it right there, and I'll just give it this as supplementary kind of thing. So what it's going to do, this skill opens up in the internal browser the page, takes a look at the page, everything like this. So follow-up testing it. Oh, so you see where it says follow-up do testing if this works, clear with this, but then it continued over to my task at hand. I actually
it'll do that to cross,
I actually have this cron job that runs. I was like, hey, reminder, so /reminder. So no matter if I'm in Grok, Claude Code, whatever, I do /reminder. So anywhere where I'm working out of my system, it'll prompt me to say testing if this works. So that's a really cool thing where it's like, if you need a constant reminder about something, you now have that following you in everything that you do. So if I go out to the image stack rollout over here, you could already see that Codex hit the ground, right? So it's I'm starting with the primary your anytime meal visual, right? So that's this one over here that it's going to go in effect, right? So there you go. So now this was, Oreo flavored, the all-in-one whole food shake, your anytime meal.
Had the old,
but now it's exact same thing for chocolate-covered strawberries. So you can see it's not, nothing changed. Not a dang thing changed over here, right? And then it's going to go and it's going to do it for, I think the second one I did was, butter pecan. So then now everything should be identically the same. The only thing that should change is the color of the shake, the flavor elements on the side. So this is a really good way for brands that have in-house designers that are like highly against AI creation. It's like, cool. Well, then have your designer work on one thing to be like, this is gospel, this is the source of truth, then use AI smartly to scale, because a designer shouldn't be spending time and energy making different, I have to approve this one, I'm very strict on approvals, so approve.
Me too. I understand that.
So it caught this here. So there was a QA issue, so it caught something. I don't know what exactly it caught, but it caught something to change this. So it changed a little bit of the flavor positioning.
I see that. Yeah, it recreated it to make sure that, because it's analyzing the image after it creates it, right? To make sure it's good, and then creates again if not. Right.
Yeah, because you see how the QC caught this. So if you look at the glass is tucked behind. The bottom of the glass is cut off, right? Because
Okay.
it's
Yeah, I
technically
noticed that.
nestled behind that circle.
Mhm.
So the first generation didn't
Oh,
nestle it behind the circle,
that's why it did
right?
that.
So then what it's going to do is, oh, no, we have quality control. It's
So
got to be nestled behind
recursively, right, went and checked. Wow, that's
Yep.
incredible.
So the skill has that foolproofness, even though we were both kind of duped, right? We were like, well, crap, that's exactly as it was before.
It kind of looked like, I was like, oh, just initial impressions. But it wasn't until Codex came the next image. You're like, well, first you think, oh, are you dumb? Are you duplicating? And then you're like, oh, wait, it gave a better one, because it analyzed the first one, said this isn't good enough. It needs to be more like the original.
That's the big value prop. So see here. So now it's doing melon. So now but see, it's
I wonder if it'll correct itself again.
Yeah, but it's just interesting how nothing changed except the color and the flavor prop. The badging still the same. So like, I love how Codex has, and I think ChatGPT has this too, this canvas mode. For a design perspective, it's a lot better to see everything all in one kind of thing, where I can then come in here and I could say, comment this or fix this or do that. So in this instance, if for whatever reason it didn't pick up on the nuance about the bottle being tucked, I can then come over here and I can comment that right here and send it over
right there,
so that your designer and your person that's doing the creating, right? So it missed that, right? So that's be something that I would go in, but you could see it got that for the butter.
It got that one, yeah.
But you see what I'm saying is those minor edits pale in comparison to what it would take a creative person to manually do this, right? Yeah, what you're doing is empowering designers to really do good work first and then scale it using AI, because technically all I'd have to do is come in here and say, okay, fix this right here. So it might catch it, by the way. It caught the QA mid-cycle. At the end, it's going to QA again. So it may catch that at the end of the QC cycle before it exports everything out. But you can see now it's going to be onto this image. So I'm actually interested to see how the hell it's going to do this, right? For like butter pecan and for the chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh, that's going to be impressive if it does this one. This one, I'd be even more impressed if it did that.
And for the melon too, and it's just like,
but I mean, someone can have this rolling, they go for lunch, right? And they can just, just do this.
Forget.
And then come back
You
at
could
lunch
do this.
and
I've done this for, Image Stack Rollout for like 20, 30 other ASINs and other flavors, walked away. Sure, Codex was working for like 2 hours. What do I care? I was doing something else. I was
doing something else.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So this one's going to say, okay, so to be fair, we didn't give it a list of ingredients. So we did say that it's flavored with this, right? But to be fair, this one, okay, let me take a step back, right? Actually, if I look at the listing itself, I just want to make sure that for this one, no, banana is actually inside all of the flavors. So like even the berries and cream one has the banana inside of it. So that's not a hallucination. That's highly accurate, because I thought it was retaining something, but this is the original
specifically
one
from there, but it was merely retaining the continuity.
So that's a source ingredient in that product. So this is accurate, right? Well, obviously that's the one that's the stock one, but when I go over here, this is accurate, right? Because now it's talking about the chocolate covered strawberries, and everything else is exactly the source ingredients over there. Just like if I go to the butter pecan, but look, butter pecan at the top, source ingredients at the bottom. Everything else is highly, highly accurate. So it's like, look at this, dude. You could sit here and just let it run. There's no changes there's no delta between.
With the Pro, I noticed there's no limit. Did you notice that in image creation? Have you hit a limit on image creation on the Pro account? I haven't.
You mean inside of Codex or inside ChatGPT?
Yeah, inside of Codex.
No,
well, I guess it's tied to usage, so you can do it based on your usage. I haven't in ChatGPT chat, I guess, but yeah, it is part of usage. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So technically, it could be a little bit more bootstrappy because it's hard to really run these QA checks and balances skills in ChatGPT, not so much in Codex. It's more agentic. But technically you could do this in ChatGPT. It's just going to be a little bit more manual to make sure. But dude, like the fact is I can go over here and resize it. I think it's really cool. So like if you're doing something like 16 by 9, 9 by 16, and the generative fill is not trash, but like look at this. We already have
that's good. Yeah.
We have almost everything already pretty much done. Nothing changed over here. So that's why I say it's just like, and look, you're going into this mode that you could sit here and be like, well, cool, let me take a look at like a high up level. Is it working? Does it make sense? Or do I want to holistically change like the backgrounds of all of these to be something specific? Because now if everything looks good, but I'm like, you know what? I just want to change the background of everything to pink, just whatever reason, I can multi-select and do that command and have it generate. So it's all about not wasting time. But like I've done, like another good example I keep pinned up here is like, for hot sauce, right? I ran this, and this is a cool example because it's different flavors across the whole stack, right? So, this one, here it is right here. So this one went over here, and come on, Codex. So I actually did the full image stack creation. So just the high res image of just the bottle,
right? Just from the bottle
here. URL on Amazon, right? I gave it notes. Don't show the bottle in every shot. I'm still updating my skills, but that's the output. That's the output, right? And that's, you know, flavor specific, Scoville unit over here. And I was like, this is way better than what Tabasco has on their PDP. And I was like, cool. Well, let's lock that in as high fidelity, right? Of what good looks like. Now let's run the image stack rollout skill for the different flavors. So now let's do it for the
now you're doing multiple flavors at once. It's handling multiple ASINs at once, right?
So I'm doing 3 of them. Look at that. Consistency across the board, right? So much so that tropical heat with the flavor prop of mango papaya is showing tropical style foods like the salsa, the shrimp, and the jerk bowls and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, at the very least, you know, companies, what do you say to like a company, I'm very skeptical about using AI imagery, to the very least can use these as phenomenal concepts to help their own creative work. And what you're saying isn't necessarily to replace the creative work, it's to augment their creative work. And it's not to say we're going to get rid of creative designers. You want to empower creative designers even more. Some are saying, oh, this can replace your jobs, which maybe for, someone of a 7-figure seller, 6-figure seller, that doesn't have to do a photo shoot, all these things. But then even for like bigger brands, like using this as concept and helping them in their job as a creative, that's what you're talking about, right?
100%, right? So like if you look right here, it's not gonna let me click that, but this is my iteration, my skill of doing the whole image stack. This is replacing their image stack, right? So look how high fidelity and good this image is right here. So this is your anytime meal. This is right here, kind of taking their iteration of it. So actually it's pretty on par to what they have. More than a protein shake, from scoop to shake in 20 seconds. So what it's doing is just taking the stuff that they have and just making it better. So 1 scoop, whole stack, all these different ingredients here, showing the packaging. So you can see like now, know your scoop, 20 servings, 180 calories. I talk to folks all the time and I'm like, own the process instead of renting. There's tons of apps out there, like third-party tools to do Amazon images and e-com images. I think I'm on some of the homepages as saying they're great tools. They're 100% great tools. But I always tell people, own the process. Renting is good, but it's like at some point you want to own it in-house because I'm doing all of these.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. You want to own it in-house because it's like if talk about that. Like what's the benefit of like when so it sounds like you come alongside people, you don't just do images, you teach them also how to use these with their images, right? You empower them.
I have a cohort. It's starting in a little bit, so I have to hop soon. So I run cohorts every month. So around a different theme where it's a weekly call for a lot of brand owners and operators. I don't go and say, look at the cool stuff I can do. I say, here's what I'm doing. And how do we build this into your workflow? So like my skills are very agnostic, right? So it's going to take what's best practice from the listing and from the product. But for example, if this brand owner was like, I need to show a before and after, like that's when we're taking my skill and customizing it for them to show every third image in the stack is a before and after, right? So they're able to scale. So like another cool one is like this, which is, you know, I'm an advisor for Product Opinion, which I love. And with hero images, I talk about all the time, same Tabasco kind of thing like this, URL with an image lab skill, main image lab skill. What it's going to do, it's going to pull from 60 plus baked in tactics that are inside the skill, 60 plus different image tactics. And it's going to pick the 5 best based on the product itself and then give it to you. So as opposed to just the bottle over there, it says, cool, tilt it, ingredient and splash it. So now it's like, okay, let me slightly tilt it a little bit. Let me put ingredients in front of it. Let me put a splash behind it, right? So all these different things, like, you know, you can test and see and move at scale, but like, that's really where, you know, Codex is like super powered. I mean, look at these images. Like,
oh wow, it did it with the powder too that we did.
Powder, everything is the same. Wow. Look at this. So it's like shake and go for this elements over here, shake and go for this element. It's unreal. It's really unreal the time we're living in because you're just able to just do, you know.
That's very true. Wow. That's John. This is incredible, mind-blowing stuff as always. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you best?
I would always say LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, I feel like it's dying for me. But I am on LinkedIn. But I would say 𝗀𝗄𝗏, so GOASPI.com is my website. I'm doing a lot of AI education for brands, operators, business owners, that kind of thing. And VelocitySellers.com, that is the agency I work at as a creative director. So if someone's, you know, there's a big dichotomy of like, I need an agency, I hate agencies. And I get it. People have been agency burned, all this kind of stuff. But still, there are a ton of folks that need agency because they just don't know, especially a lot of like mid-market enterprise brands. We have the budget to do it. And it's just not our specialty. We just have to farm it out to someone else. That's typically who we work with. Usually monster catalogs. I usually see some of the clients I work with. Like I did a creative strategy today and it was for like an HVAC component, super not sexy, but sells a ton. But they have like 3,200 ASINs. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, fix it. So, but yeah, I could be found pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you want to get your image clicked, and in a way that converts customers, John Aspinall is the person to go to, bar none. It's not even close. So, John, thank you for being on this podcast, and wish you well.
Absolutely. And I will say this: anyone who reaches out to me, if you mention Retail Playbook or Andrew Bell, and you reach out to me, I'll run some of my image stack skills and send them over to you. I can promise that. I can't promise any edits or revisions that you might ask because sometimes I put my foot directly in my mouth. But if you contact me and say, "Hey, I saw you on Retail Playbook,"
I've done the same thing.
I'll be happy to run those for you.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.